Now let's solve some questions which were appeared in earlier NEET, EIPMT and AIMS. Okay, so most of the questions that we are going to discuss, they are appeared questions, appeared in different competitive examinations. Now, question number one, an example for colonial algae is, okay, colonial algae. Okay, colonial means the algae which live in a colony, okay, which form a colony. Okay. Now here, Volvox is colonial. Volvox is colonial. Okay, Volvox is actually unicellular only, but it lives in a colony. Whereas Chlamydomonas is unicellular, but it does not live in colony. Spirogyra is filamentous. Hence, the colonial algae example is Volvox. If they ask unicellular and independent, Chlamydomonas. If they ask filamentous algae, then Spirogyra. Okay. Now moving on to next question. In Spirogyra, reproduction is which type of reproduction that Spirogyra exhibits? Isogamous, anisogamous, and oogamous. Now here the answer is in Spirogyra, both the male and female gametes are of the same size. Here you can see male gamete and female gamete, they are of the same size in case of Spirogyra. That is why it is isogamous. So here answer is isogamous. So in the book they have mentioned different types of reproduction, isogamous, anisogamous, and oogamous, and examples have also been mentioned. Okay, now here it is. This is isogamy. Both the gametes are of same size as seen in case of Spirogyra. Anisogamy means the female gamete is generally larger, whereas male gamete is smaller, but both are motile here. Okay, both can move, both can swim with the help of these flagella. In oogamy, the third type, that is oogamous kind of reproduction, the egg is larger but it is non-motile, whereas the sperm or the male gamete is motile. Next question. Which of the following algae are used as food supplements by space travelers? Now here answer is both 1 and 3, chlorella and spirulina. Now chlorella and spirulina, they act like no, they are a rich source of protein, so that's why they are used by space travelers and they can keep them for longer duration of time. Okay, they are not spoiled. Laminaria is also, it is an alga. Okay, it is a multicellular alga. Chlorella and spirulina, they are unicellular algae, whereas Laminaria is a multicellular alga, which is also used by, as food, but not by space travelers. Next, the main function of pyrenoids is, okay, to store starch and proteins, to synthesize proteins, photosynthesis, none of the above. Here answer is storage of starch and proteins. So here an image, okay, is shown of Chlamydomonas. Now this is the pyrenoid which stores starch and proteins. Starch and proteins. Now protein synthesis occurs in case in ribosomes. You all know that. Photosynthesis is done by chloroplast. So proteins which are synthesized ribosomes, starch which is synthesized during photosynthesis, they are stored in the bodies called pyrenoids. The number of pyrenoids in an alga may vary from species to species. Next, identify the labeling A in the given diagram. So this is A, SAS. Okay. Here the answer is Jamma cup. The answer is Jamma cup. So the given diagram is of male gametophyte of Markensia. Okay, Markensia is liverwort, which belongs to bryophyte group. Jamma cups are asexual reproductive structures, which are found in case of liverworts such as Markensia and Riccia. Now this one is Antheridia 4 that produces Antheridia. Okay. Rhizoids, here you can see these are rhizoids. These are root-like structures which do not have xylem and phloem. Next, the anthrozoids are. Now, anthrozoids are nothing but male gametes. Okay, the female gametes they are called archegonia. Female gametes are called archegonia, singular archegonium, whereas male gametes are called antheridia. Now, male gametes are produced in male gametophytes, okay, whereas archegonia are produced in female gametophytes. So here you can see it's a male gametophyte that produces antheridium with sperm. It is a female gametophyte that produces archegonium with egg. I'm moving on to next question. Protonema stage is observed in. Okay, so here the answer is mosses. So for both mosses and liverworts, they belong to bryophyte group, whereas Biophyceae, that is brown algae, chlorophyceae, green algae, they belong to algae. And protonema stage is observed only in case of mosses. So here, what happens is, okay, spore directly produces protonema. So protonema is directly produced from the spore. Spore first develops into protonema stage. Okay, and from the protonema stage, a leafy stage develops. So this is the leafy stage that is derived from the protonema. Okay. Spore develops into protonema first, okay, which is generally horizontally growing, then vertically growing leafy stage is formed from the protonema. It happens in only in case of mosses. So in liverworts, this protonema is not there. Moving on to next question. The first terrestrial plants to possess, okay, to possess vascular tissues are. Now vascular tissues, as you know very well, they have xylem and phloem. Now bryophytes do not have vascular tissues. They lack vascular tissues. Though they have root-like, stem-like, and leaf-like structures, they are not true roots, true leaves, okay, or true stem because they do not possess vascular tissues. Pteridophytes, okay, here all these pteridophytes, gymnosperms, angiosperms, they possess vascular tissues, but the first pteridophytes are evolved. Later, gymnosperms and angiosperms are evolved. So if the question is first terrestrial plants to possess vascular tissues are, the answer should be pteridophytes because pteridophytes come, okay, they have come before gymnosperms and angiosperms. Next question. The gametophyte is inconspicuous and free living. Inconspicuous means it does not have, you can say, longer duration. It survives only for shorter duration, and also it is extremely small in size. Okay. Now in bryophytes, gametophyte is dominant. In bryophytes, gametophyte is dominant and it is quite conspicuous. In angiosperms and gymnosperms, gametophyte is not free living. It is not free living because gametophyte lives within the sporophyte. So it does not have free living existence in case of angiosperms and gymnosperms. In case of bryophytes, it is dominant. But in case of pteridophytes, the gametophyte is short-lived. It is short-lived but is free living. Now this is the gametophyte of pteridophytes, which is called as prothallus. So it has independent existence and also it is inconspicuous. Okay, identify the heterosporous pteridophytes from the following. Now, in the given examples, Salvinia, Selaginella, and Pteris, all of them they are pteridophytes. All of them they are pteridophytes. Most of the pteridophytes are homosporous. That is, they produce similar sized spores, same type of spores. They produce same type of spores. But Selaginella and Salvinia, both these plants, they are exceptions for this. Now, Selaginella and Salvinia, they produce smaller microspores and larger megaspores. Male gametophyte is produced within microspores, whereas female gametophyte is produced within the megaspores. So Salvinia and Selagilla, they produce two types of spores. That is why they are called heterosporous. Whereas Pteris is another pteridophyte. It is homosporous, means it produces similar type of spores. So they produce Salvinia and Selagilla. They produce smaller microspores, larger megaspores. Microspore within microspores, the male gametophyte develops. Within the megaspores, female gametophyte is produced. Now, the development of the zygotes into young embryos takes place within the female gametophytes in heterosporous pteridophytes such as Selaginella and Salvinia. This is an important event from evolutionary point of view because this improves the efficiency of conduction of vascular tissues. No, it has nothing to do with this. This protects the gametophytes. Yes, even though it protects the gametophytes, okay, that's correct, but that is not important from evolutionary point of view. Now, this event is a precursor to the seed habit. Okay, means precursor means this is important character that led to the development of seed habit. So this is the correct answer. Okay, the megaspores and microspores germinate in case of heterosporous pteridophytes. Megaspores and microspores germinate and give rise to female and male gametes respectively. The female gametophytes in these plants are retained on the parent sporophytes for variable periods. The development of zygotes into young embryos takes place within the female gametophytes. So that is why this event is important from evolutionary point of view of development of seed habit. Next, gametophyte is dominant in. Okay, so in pteridophytes, gymnosperms and angiosperms, here the sporophyte is dominant. Only in bryophytes, gametophyte is dominant. So here answer is bryophytes. The reduced gametophyte in gymnosperms and angiosperms is called. Now here it is called as pollen grain. Now embryocyte is female gametophyte, pollen grain is male gametophyte. Okay. Now this gametophyte, pollen grain, it produces two male gametes. Next question. Which of the following groups is exclusively heterosporous? Means there are no exceptions. All plants belong to that group. They are completely heterosporous. That is, they produce two types spores, megaspores and microspores. Algae and bryophytes, okay, they are homosporous. They are purely homosporous. Algae and bryophytes. Most pteridophytes are homosporous. Most of the pteridophytes, except Selaginella and Salvinia, all are homosporous. Okay, but some are heterosporous also, like Salvinia and Selaginella. Gymnosperms, they are exclusively heterosporous, means they always produce two types of spores, megaspores and microspores. So your answer is gymnosperms. Now, double fertilization occurs only in case of, okay, double fertilization. Remember, double fertilization is unique feature of angiosperms. It occurs only in angiosperms. It doesn't happen in case of gymnosperms, bryophytes or algae. Now here what happens? Now this is the female gametophyte of angiosperms. Okay, it is made up of different cells like eggs. There is egg. Okay, antipodal cells. Then there are two cells guarding the egg, which are called as synergids. And there are two central nuclei, which are called as polar nuclei. Now here this is nothing but embryocyte of angiosperms or female gametophyte. Okay. And male gametophyte is nothing but, you already know that in angiosperms and gymnosperms, the male gametophyte is pollen grain. Now, pollen grain produces two gametes. Okay, two male gametes. Okay, generative nucleus. Sorry, this generative nucleus only. Okay, it divides into two male gametes. Two male gametes. When the pollen grains are shed on the stigma, okay, then what happens? From pollen grain, pollen tube develops. So the pollen tube, okay, it contains generative nucleus and tube nucleus. Generative nucleus divides into two male gametes, okay, or two male pronuclei. Okay, so one of these gametes here you can see. So there are two sperm nuclei which are produced from generative nucleus. Out of these two nuclei, out of these two gametes, one fused with the egg. One fused with the egg, and the other male gamete fused with the central nuclei, or you can say polar nuclei. Now this fertilized embryo, okay, this fertilized ovum, okay, or egg develops into embryo, whereas this structure, that is polar nuclei, after fusion with the second sperm nuclei, it develops into endosperm that nourishes the developing embryo. So double fertilization here means there are two male gametes which are produced. One male gamete fused with the egg, the other male gamete fused with the central nuclei. So here you can see two different fertilizations. That is why it is called double fertilization. Now sporophytic generation is extremely short-lived in. So this we already discussed. Sporophytic generation is extremely short-lived in case of haplontic life cycle. It is represented only by a single cell, that is nothing but zygote. So it is extremely short-lived. So in diplomatic life cycle, sporophytic generation is dominant. In haplodiplomatic life cycle, in some plants, sporophyte is dominant, and in some plants, uh, gametophyte is dominant. Okay. But here, sporophytic generation is extremely short-lived. It is represented only by zygote. Remaining questions we shall discuss in our group.